Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to talk about something that's, well, it's deeply misunderstood, but so important. We're talking about pediatric palliative care.
So let's just get right into it. When you hear the words palliative care, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For a lot of people, it's about giving up, right? The end of the road. But is that the real story? Not even close.
All right, to make sure we're all on the same page, let's look at how the World Health Organization actually defines it. They call it the active and total care of a child's body, mind, and spirit. And super important, this includes support for the family too. Now, here are the two game-changing parts. It starts at diagnosis, and it can happen at the same time as treatment that's trying to cure the illness. That right there, it flips the whole idea on its head.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll redefine what palliative care really is. Then we'll look at who actually needs it. After that, we'll explore the integrated model of care, how big decisions get made, and finally, what it means to plan ahead with dignity.
All right, let's jump right in. We're redefining palliative care. Forget the idea of it being an end. Think of it as a beginning.
Okay, this is maybe the biggest takeaway. It's not a switch that gets flipped. It's not one single moment. Think of it more like a journey, a spectrum of care that changes and adapts right along with the child. It's a part of the whole picture of their health.
And this image here shows that journey perfectly. It's not like you're just walking along and suddenly fall off a cliff into palliative care. No, there's what's called a point of inflection. It's this moment in time where things start to shift, and the focus of care gradually, gently, includes more of that palliative support. It's an evolution, not a sudden stop.
So that brings up a big question. Who exactly are we talking about here? Who needs this kind of support? The answer, it might not be what you think.
Well, if you look at the estimates, it's somewhere between 15 and 36 kids for every 10,000. Now, that might sound like a small number, but when you think about it, that's a lot of families whose lives are touched by this. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you think of palliative care, you probably think of cancer, right? But look at this. Cancer only makes up about 30% of the cases. A whopping 70%, the vast majority, are kids with all sorts of other complex conditions. We're talking neurodegenerative diseases, metabolic disorders, genetic conditions. It's a huge spectrum. And to break it down even more, doctors often think about this in terms of the path of the illness, not just the name of it. So you have Group 1, where treatment might work but could also fail, like cancer. Then Group 2, for kids needing long-term intensive treatment, think cystic fibrosis. Group 3 is for progressive diseases with no cure. Group 4 for conditions that are irreversible but don't get worse, like a severe brain injury. And finally, Group 5 for conditions diagnosed even before birth. It just goes to show how many different journeys this kind of care can support.
Okay, so if we understand palliative care differently, how does that change how doctors and families approach treatment? Well, it's a huge shift. It's moving from an either-or mindset to a both-and one.
Let's look at that. The old way of thinking was like a one-way street. You try curative treatments, and if they don't work, then you switch over to palliative care. It was sequential. But the modern view, totally different. It's like two lanes on a highway running side by side. Curative care and palliative care, working together right from the start, with the focus always on quality of life.
This diagram lays it out so clearly. On the left, you see those old models? See how they're separate boxes? One stops, the next one starts. But look to the right, at the integrated model. See all that overlap? That's the key. Curative and palliative support are woven together, providing total care for the child through their entire journey. Okay, so if all this care is happening at once, you might be wondering, how on earth do you make those incredibly tough decisions? Well, the answer isn't a formula. It's a process, and it's a deeply human one. It's all about something called shared decision-making. And the name says it all. It's a partnership, a team effort. And this is so important. It is not about dumping an impossible choice on the family's shoulders. It's about doctors and family members coming together, sharing what they know and what they value to find the best way forward together.
And it's not just a nice idea, there's actually a roadmap for it. Step 1, you figure out if there's more than one medically sound option on the table. Step 2, you weigh the pros and cons of each one. But Step 3, this is crucial. You explore how each option lines up with the family's personal values and hopes. And all of that leads to Step 4, a constant conversation, a real dialogue that leads to a choice everyone feels good about.
All right, our last section. Let's talk about one of the most empowering tools a family can have to make sure their voice is always heard. It's called Advanced Care Planning, or ACP. And let's be clear about what it's not. It is not a scary, legally binding contract you sign once and can never change. Think of it as a living document, a guide that comes out of an ongoing conversation. It's all about looking ahead, anticipating what decisions might come up, and doing it in a calm, thoughtful way before you're in a crisis.
And what goes into this plan? Well, pretty much everything. It's totally holistic. It covers the medical stuff, sure, like do we want to be in the hospital or at home, but it also covers the deeply personal things, spiritual needs, how to keep siblings involved, even wishes for after death, like funeral plans. It's about making sure the entire child, their life, their personality, their spirit, is honored.
You know, when you pull it all together, the models, the decision-making, the planning, there's one thing that runs through all of it, and that's this profound sense of respect. I think this quote from the source material we used just says it all. To the children and their caregivers, our greatest teachers.
And that's really where we land. Understanding all this is the first crucial step, but it can't be the last one. It leaves us with a question, really, for every single one of us. How can we, in our own communities, do a better job of supporting these kids and their families as they navigate one of the toughest journeys imaginable?